Yeah, I don't think there's a legitimate complaint. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. This is a special city council meeting, and it is Monday, December 27th, 2021. We'll start the meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom.
Here.
Weifenbach. Roberts.
Here.
Stroman.
Here.
Armstrong.
Here. You are the last party in the conference. You will hear silence until the conference begins.
Jones. Lehman.
Here.
Solomon.
Here.
Evans. Here. Drew. Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to take just a few moments for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. And now for the adoption of the agenda, would there be a motion from council?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Roberts and a second by Lehman to adopt this agenda. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. There are no speaker requests for general public comment. We'll get to all the other speakers here in a moment. So non-consent items 1 through 3. Item number 1 under ordinances. Approve the second reading of ordinance number 6520 regarding supplemental appropriation number 8 for 2021. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve Roberts. Second Lehman. We'll go to Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for Pauline Sumption, please.
Yes.
Hi, Pauline. At the end of a meeting a few weeks ago, we had been informed of a $41,000 penalty or fine. Which fund did that come out of to pay?
That came out of the general fund and specifically the finance department's org code.
And that's, I would assume that's not something we look at very much with your department, fines or anything like that, because it's the first time I've ever heard of one.
So the city's received fines on other things, and they usually come out of the department's budget where it was caused.
Okay, and then has there been anything put in place like a tickler system or anything? I mean, I would assume this was really a rarity for you guys, but, you know, just so that it doesn't happen again, I mean, it's still $41,000.
Correct. So in this case, it definitely was a rarity, and we've since changed our process, and we're also trying to get a hold of South Dakota Retirement System to visit with them about it, and we're just waiting for them to return a phone call because they were closed on Thursday when I called them.
Okay, nice to hear you following up on it, and thank you very much. I yield.
Okay. Bill Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to comment a little bit on this because as this thing came in over the weekend and we needed to do a little more research, it's really hard to find out what some of these items actually entail, in particular the giant ones like $13 million for various things, and yet there's no explanation as to what those gigantic items are. And I know that we've had a little bit of time before this, but you know, it was very awkward with 4 days, basically a vacation before this, to do any research. So I wish there was a way, and I've mentioned this before, to include, especially on these giant items, a link to a list so we actually know exactly what it is we're voting on when we see something listed for $13 million. It's concerning to me. Now, I did check with Ms. Sumption, and she assures me that this is that and this is that, but I would have liked to know it, you know, Saturday or Sunday when I'm trying to find that stuff out. So that is a suggestion, and also would provide some transparency to the citizens who might be asking the same questions, because it's very awkward to do these things, especially when you've got a 4-day holiday, basically, and all the offices are closed. Thank you.
Okay, duly noted. We have a motion for approval on item 1. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, the bill list. Bill list for December 27th, 2021 will go to Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, that which is attached. So the total remains, sorry, I was looking up CUP stuff. The total remains $7,326,776.61.
Motion to approve by Solomon, second by Lehman. All in favor of approving the bill list, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, under Community Development, non-consent. Approve agreement between the City of Rapid City and the South Dakota Department of Transportation for accomplishing the Rapid City Area Transportation Planning Process in the amount of $651,232. Motion to approve by Nordstrom, second by Drew. Kip Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a standard agreement that we do every year between the South Dakota Department of Transportation and the City of Rapid City, as the city is the fiscal agent for the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And this agreement allows us to be reimbursed for all our transportation planning activities that are federally required through the MPO. The reason it's so late is we usually get this in October from the DOT, and for some reason this year they delayed it and we didn't get it till the beginning of December. So by the time we could get it through our MPO committees and to you folks, it's right down to the wire so we can get this in place for next year. So hopefully next year we can be a little more, they will be a little more on the ball and get it to us in October like they normally do, and you will have it in November of next year instead of December. Are there any questions on the agreement?
Okay, anyone in favor of a motion to fine the Department of Transportation $41,000? Okay, thank you, Kip. All right. We have a motion and a second on item 3. All in favor of that item say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing items 4 through 18. We'll open the public hearing on these items now, and I'll read off in random order the speakers who wish to speak today. All the speakers will have 3 minutes. Glance up here at these lights, and when it's flashing yellow, you get 30 seconds. Hope you can wrap it up during that time. Dr. Kelly Jobman. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah, come on up to the podium. Did I pronounce it okay?
Yeah, yes, you did.
Okay,
Thank you
good,
very
thanks.
much. Oh, Merry Christmas. Thanks so much, you guys. So hi, my name is Dr. Kelly Jobman, and I am a board-certified pediatric dentist at Black Hills Pediatric Dentistry. A pediatric dentist, just for those of you who aren't aware, has an additional 2 years of schooling and advanced training to provide specialized care to children. Myself, along with my pediatric dental partners, Dr. Williams and Dr. Bradley, own Sheridan Lake properties. This campus houses Black Hills Pediatric Dentistry as well as Rushmore Ambulatory Surgery Center. For over 35 years, Black Hills Pediatric Dentistry has provided dental care to infants, children, adolescents, and those with special health care needs. Every year, our clinics on Sheridan Lake Road see approximately 25,000 patient appointments. Today, I'm here to ask you to overturn the conditional use permit granted by the Planning Commission on December 9th to Treehouse Cannabis for the address of 2525 West Main, as it is less than 250 feet from our businesses, where we specialize in treating children. In addition to that, there are other reasons why it should be overturned. Number one, there was an incomplete permit. We believe it is definitely worth mentioning that on the conditional use permit projected report, that the information on crime and safety on page 7 for a safe, healthy, inclusive, and skilled community, it stated NA, or non-applicable. This issue is highly relevant, and it is definitely applicable to our neighborhood that houses these dispensaries. In 2019, the University of Colorado conducted a study that assesses the safety risks of those associated with medical marijuana dispensaries in their neighborhood. It was found that, quote, the presence of at least one medical marijuana dispensary is associated with statistically significant increases in neighborhood crime, disorder, including robbery and aggravated assault. I have copies for everyone if you would like one. Number two, its proximity to a residential complex. Adjacent to this dispensary location is an apartment complex. There are only 221 feet between the front door of this dispensary location and the front door of someone's home. And finally, there is only 314 feet to an area that is deemed high-density residential. Thirdly, the bus stop that has been discussed before is associated at the location of Sheridan Lake Road in West Main is less than 250 feet away. Finally, the children. Our campus sees over 100 kids and families within 250 feet every single day. Each of these individual concerns are reasons enough to deny a conditional use permit. However, collectively, it's overwhelmingly counterproductive based on the criteria outlined by the council. It has been used as a guide to process the proper placement of dispensaries. The purpose or intent of these ordinances is to assure that each business is not in a location where children congregate. Children congregate at the apartments, children congregate at the bus stop, and children most definitely congregate at our pediatric dental practice. I also ask you to specifically review subsections 9 and 12 to consider the effect and this change on our neighborhood. Again, thank you for your time, and we ask that you overturn the Planning Commission's decision for the conditional use permit at 2525 West Main. Thank you so much for your time, and again, if you'd like a copy of that research, please let me know.
Thank you. Next up is Jim Gwynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Jim Gwynn. I'm a property owner here. My daughter, my 23-year-old daughter, also lives in Rapid City here. But I am speaking on behalf of From the Hills LLC on item number 4, a conditional use permit for Campbell Square addition. Based on the December 20th meeting, it seems that the major concern of these CUPs from appellants and council members alike is their proximity to schools, parks, residents, etc. You should have received an email as well, but I'd like to reiterate before your vote that the location is in the green zone per the zoning map. The CUP was required due to a planned unit overlay affecting another tenant. While the city didn't notate distance in this report, we believe that it is at least 1,000 feet from any sensitive area, including churches, parks, etc. The property is located along a revitalization corridor, and the proposed medical cannabis dispensary will utilize an existing vacant suite on the property. Throughout the city's project report, the findings are in favor of approving this CUP. If you have any questions on this during the discussion, please feel free to call Tylen Pike of VIP Properties, who sent the email. I also want to note one thing. Mr. Jones brought the objections up in the last meeting, but the CUPs were still voted through. The majority of the conditional use permits you are voting on today are multiple licenses for one building but different suites. If you vote all these through, you are allowing these businesses to skew the state lottery. Not only that, but the acceptance of multiple applications has created an environment where only the businesses with deep pockets can afford to pay multiple non-refundable security deposits. Attorneys, agents, etc. are going to have a chance to actually get these licenses. This is the inequity in the marketplace where the public speakers and the appellants are referring to in the last meeting. I ask you to consider this argument when voting, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Emmett Reistroffer. Not me.
All right, if you're ready, Mayor.
Just hold on.
Okay.
I apologize, and also,
Breaking news?
oh, okay, first off, did I do a disservice to your name?
No, you did great, Mayor.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you. It's Emmett Reistroffer visiting from Sioux Falls, and it's a pleasure to be here and to see you all today. I look forward to the opportunity to do business in Rapid City. I represent Genesis Farms. We have 12 CUPs on the agenda today. I do appreciate your willingness to look at each one on a case-by-case basis. I think some folks may ask that we take, the decisions on other applications and we should automatically apply those to ours. But I would just ask that you consider my group is a unique group with a tremendous amount of experience. We could have probably submitted 30 more applications, but we did not. We actually worked really closely with the staff to come to this number that we have that are all eligible, that did get through the Planning Commission, and each one, I believe, has 8 stipulations attached to it as a result of going through that process to get to this point today. I can speak to each stipulation as well as all the various nuances of how we control odor, how we monitor waste, how we monitor security, how we prevent loitering, consumption on site, and most importantly, how we operate as a responsible business to be a good neighbor and a good member of Rapid City. I only have 3 minutes right now, so I can't go into that. But I want council and the public also to know I'm one of the most open books in this industry. I'm meeting with a group of pastors in Mitchell, South Dakota, where I'm working to open a dispensary. They wanted to meet me and talk to me. I'm looking forward to meeting them. I would do similar coffees here in Rapid City and talk to anyone who has any questions or concerns. So I hope you'll take advantage of me being here today to ask me any questions. In looking at the appeals, I don't believe that we had any that were site-specific to our locations. I saw one email had come in regarding our location on East St. Patrick's. So if that comes up, I hope you'll give me a chance to come back up to speak to that. I did some research. I looked at The neighbor's site plans, our site plan, and I want to speak more specifically to that when you look at that location. But as you think of the totality of these CUPs, I want you to think about, we've talked about saturation before, concerns of these dispensaries being located too close together. I've certainly seen that in other cities. I agree. There's pros and cons to every decision you make, but I think when you deny the CUPs, I trust your judgment. You should have good reasons to make that denial, but keep in mind that when you deny them, then we're more likely to get more locations that don't go through the CUP. And that may sound okay, but I would ask folks doing business on Eglin Street or Deadwood Avenue, do they want all 15 dispensaries all packed up in those areas? When I looked at the map from the Planning Commission meeting, I know I'm done, if I could just finish this quick point. Some of our locations were the only locations in that entire area, especially on East St. Patrick. So we believe they should be spread out and accessible to neighborhoods all across the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Wes Cockney? How'd I do?
Caney.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. My handwriting's
Maybe
not
it was
the
your
best.
handwriting and
Yeah,
not my
I'll accept
incompetence.
responsibility for that for sure.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine, Mr. Mayor. No problem. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Wes Caney. I was born and raised in Rapid City until the age of 13. In 2017, when my wife and I were expecting our first daughter, we decided Rapid City was where we wanted to live to start our family as well. My passion for the rights and fair access to treatment for cannabis patients and business owners alike only started recently when I began researching this issue to learn more about treatment for my own recent diagnosis. As I spoke to last week, I was recently diagnosed with epilepsy, and it has run in my family for a few different generations. I'm a 33-year-old, otherwise healthy young man, so the idea of taking a pill twice a day has been tough to swallow. In researching medical cannabis treatments available to treat epilepsy, I stumbled across the application of conditional use permits here in Rapid. Seems to me the majority of these are being used to gain additional entries into the lottery for licensing purposes. A few businesses appear to be using this the right way, but with anything, it's a shame when a few bad eggs ruin the whole batch. I'm here today on behalf of myself and the group Rapid City Citizens for Safe Cannabis Access. It's a pro-cannabis group to appeal the approval of CUPs for medical cannabis businesses. As a father and someone who grew up in Rapid, I'm concerned that these conditional use zones are too close to public areas, which include neighborhoods, historic downtown Rapid City, walking paths, baseball, soccer fields, parks, schools, and churches. There are plenty of places to operate these medical cannabis facilities in the areas initially approved that do not require permits for conditional use. As a patient, I'm concerned with two major things. The high number of CUP applications submitted by just a few large companies. 27 of the 31 still under consideration, and these factors include last week, so they might be a little different, I apologize, are held by only 3 entities. From my perspective, all this does is limit the places patients will have to obtain their medicine and make for an unhealthy marketplace. Second, the fact that there are multiple applications per legally established parcel is disconcerting. 14, almost half of the active applications for CUPs are only at 4 legally established parcels. And again, some of this is hearkening back to last week. Because only one medical cannabis business will be allowed to operate per address if these CUPs are awarded, I firmly believe that if a license is drawn, other applications for that parcel should no longer be considered. Drawing multiple licenses and transferring them to currently unknown or unapproved locations will only cause a delay in providing cardholders access to their medicine. In summary, rejecting the CUPs reinforces why IM26 was written. It helps keep our community family-friendly, gives patients diverse treatment options, provides consistency to the licensing process, and protects all business owners equally. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Stanton Anchor. Jeez.
All right. Afternoon. My name's Stanton Anchor. I'm an attorney here in Rapid City, and I'm here on behalf of my client, Treehouse Cannabis. They have I'm sorry. I'm here on behalf of my client, Treehouse Cannabis. They are one of the entities who have applied for a CUP. They have only applied for one CUP. They are only seeking one license. They are not doing multiple licenses or applications. I want to speak directly to the objection or the appeal that was filed by Black Hills Pediatric Dentistry. Last week, my office provided the City Council with some pictures. I hope that you had an opportunity to review those pictures, but I just kind of want to quickly go through that. In order to get from the location at 2525 West Main at Clock Tower to Black Hills Pediatric Dentistry or Rushmore Ambulatory Service, you have to go through other buildings and over top of a 6-foot-high wood privacy fence. You cannot see those buildings from the location of the dispensary, and you cannot see the dispensary or the proposed dispensary from the location of Black Hills Pediatric Dentistry or Rushmore Ambulatory. The reason why the CUP was needed is because a residential zone district is close to the, or within the 500 feet of the place. However, I think it's worth noting that nobody from that residential zone district filed any objections or appeals to this CUP. Mention was made of the apartment complex. That is zoned office commercial district. There was no need for a CUP from that. The only reason why the CUP was needed was because of the residential zone district, which again is not visible from the proposed site, and the proposed site is not visible from the residential zone district. There was an argument made that that this could increase crime in the area. Well, I'd like to address that. Treehouse Cannabis will have security cameras both inside and outside, along with security guards inside and outside. People will be able to leave with their medications, get into their vehicles, and leave under security. And this is not like this is a pharmacy. They will not be consuming anything on site. So the idea that there's going to be increased people driving under the influence, that just doesn't hold up, because they will pick up their medication and go home to use it. I think it's worth noting that Clock Tower Lounge stood for many, many years about 2 doors down from the current location or the proposed site of this dispensary, where you actually do consume the alcohol on site, which would create a lot larger risk of people driving under the influence than the proposed dispensary. And I see I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Nevada Ellison.
Hello, I'm Nevada Ellison. First of all, Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays to all you guys. I didn't get to see my Aunt Vicky for Christmas, so Merry Christmas, love you. So this is about the CUP that was at the top of Rushmore, and it got denied because of the access turn. I'd like to say a couple things about it. First of all, DOT has already permitted the turn for the access there. I went and did a measurement on Google. It's 1,120 feet from our turn-in to the corner, which is plenty of room, and it's uphill, and it's 2-lane, and there's always semi-trucks going up, going super slow right there. There's plenty of room, and DOT will determine if there needs to be a turning lane. I mean, that's what they do. So on the denial of the turn, I feel like that's an unfair denial. And to address a couple of the other things, we're 120 feet from residential, which is at the top of the hill. You can't see our building from the residential. You can't see our building from any building. I'm pretty sure we're the only CUP that you literally can't even see our building from another building. None of the signage. So that being said, from the residential one, I feel like that would be an unfair reason to deny our CUP. And then the initial complaint was from Kevin, who lives at the top of the hill, and he was worried about the erosion of the hill. And initially, I'd said we're going to have an engineer come in and do a survey and take care of any topographical concerns, which we still plan on doing that. And we're just, we're the small players in the game. We're just trying to get another chance at drawing the license. And at the end of the day, maybe that spot that we draw the license isn't even where we want to put it. But with all these other companies putting multiple applications in for a single building, I feel like it's kind of unfair for us to not be able to throw our card. This is our only CUP. We do have some in the green zone, but only a handful of them. And yeah, we appreciate you guys' time. And yeah, just to reinstate that one more time, the DOT, it's already permitted turn, and they'll determine whether or not we need to have a turning lane there going up that hill. It is 50 mile an hour, which is fast, I understand that, but it's a 2-lane road going up the hill too. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Zachary Lieb.
Good afternoon, Council. I want to speak on the conditional use permit at the Clock Hour Tower, the 2525 West Main Street, Suite 104 and 105. My partner and I, Mike Willard of Treehouse Cannabis, we're just a single application for a single site. We're not a big conglomerate. We're a small business. We're both natives of South Dakota. We're both family men. We both have families that we take care of. At this location, I mean, there's no steady traffic into the proposed dentistry dispensary that's bringing up the appeal. You'd have to go out of your way to have to get into that facility or that parking lot. At our facility, I mean, we'd like to, bring forth education to the community about the cannabinoid system and the science behind it, and just help our community be educated on what we are actually bringing to the community. We'd like to be a healthy business that gives back to the community. We also did send over drone footage of where our proposed dispensary location would be to show you where it lies compared to where the dispensary's at, or where the dentistry is at, and with consideration to the apartment complex and the residential. As it shows that the through street that we are proposed to, it doesn't have any direct connection to that facility. And it's about all. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Lieb, who is your partner?
Michael Willard of Treehouse Cannabis.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Sally Cormandy. Good, bad, did I get it? Good.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm speaking on behalf of specifically item 14. Thank you for the doctor that's here. And as far as the access to their facilities at the pediatric clinic and the ambulatory center, from our apartment, which is right in front of there, I can go right around that board fence and I can get right to that clinic. And as far as from our apartment to the front door of Suite 104 and 105, I can see direct main building entrance to our apartment building. As far as the crime in the area, when that bar was there were people walking around trying doors on the ground floor. There were people breaking in windows and sleeping on the floor of the indoor pool area. As far as parking is concerned, people pulling in and out of that parking area. I don't know how many times that I have been backed into by somebody backing out of there because of the blind spots there. The service entrance to Water Tree Pool and Spa is right there on that same street. their service entrance, there's plenty of traffic going in and out. And as far as children in the area, there's plenty because we live there and I have children. And I would just ask that you please not grant this permit to this business. And again, you know, I was here last week. You bared with me last week. I appreciate it. But there's plenty of places in the area that these businesses can be housed. And the fact that they have no regard to the residential area and the people that are being treated at the pediatric clinic over there, I would really ask what kind of a family man these people really are.
Thank you. Kit Jeffries.
Can you hear me all right? All right, cool. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Kit Jeffries. I represent Dakota Cannabis Consulting. First off, I want to state that I'm in neither support or opposition of any of the conditional use permits before you today. I just want there to be a fair process. I'm under the understanding that the conditional use permits before you today only had to display their conditional use permits for a total of 18 days, whereas previous applicants who were under the conditional use permit process had to display theirs for a total of 26. And this is because the medical cannabis conditional use permits before you today missed the original deadline for CUPs of October 29th. Had this council meeting not been called to hear the budget, applicants who did not make the October 29th deadline would have been heard at the regularly scheduled January 3rd meeting, which would have pushed them past the deadline. If we were playing on a fair playing field, these applications shouldn't be heard. But I understand the intent of hearing these applications, and that is why we are neither in support or opposition of it. We understand that everyone deserves a shake. We understand that. But I know that you must hear these applications, and I would hope that you use your best judgment and either approve or deny these applications with similar intentions to previous council meetings. If these proposed locations are too close to churches, daycares, schools, or parks where children congregate, then I hope you use your best judgment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that'll bring the close to our public hearing on these items. And we'll start back with the agenda then on item number 4 under non-consent public hearing items. Appeal of Planning Commission, and before I start, let's agree in the beginning that generally the two motions we'll be using today is either to uphold the Planning Commission's decision or to reverse the Planning Commission's decision. Okay? Number 4, appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by From the Hills to consider an application for a major amendment to a planned development overlay to allow medical cannabis dispensary for property generally described as being located at 530 Campbell Street. And this is an appeal of the decision to approve. Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I first hear from the planning department and see, looks like they might have a visual up here ready to go.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this property is located along Campbell Street within a commercial corridor. It's at 530 Campbell. It is in a planned development. Kip, if you can just keep going down. So the only reason that this one is before you, it meets all of the separation requirements of 500 feet to a church, a public park, a child care center, or a residential zoning district. But since it is in a planned development, any change of use requires a public hearing. That is why this one is before you today. Please note that it is directly across from the fairgrounds. There was some discussion at Planning Commission as to whether or not this would be appropriate because of the family activities there. However, the fairground property is not considered a public park, so it is not an item for consideration or review in that limitation. Planning Commission, noting that, recommended that this item be approved with stipulations.
Vicki, real quick, that park that's next to the fairgrounds was a polo field at one time. Is that within 500 feet?
No, that site is in excess of 500 feet.
Okay. And with the on-sale alcohol as well as casino. What requirements are there for distance from similar activities?
So similarly, you need to be 500 feet from a church or a school, any type of those child activities. However, if you feel that it's been mitigated or buffered, you have in the past upheld conditional use permits for on-sale liquor when they are within that distance, if you feel that it's been mitigated. If it's within 1,000 feet of a school, you cannot waive that. You can, however, allow for a conditional use permit within 500 feet of any of those other limitations if you feel that that distance has been mitigated.
Okay, so this is actually the only item that we have today that is actually beyond the 500, and the only reason it's before us is because of the overlay.
Correct.
So I will support this one only, and just to be consistent, I will be saying no to the rest that are underneath the 500 feet barrier from a church, a school, a child care center, and park. So I just want to make sure that's clear. For me, it's kind of I don't really have a yellow zone in my mind. I have a red or green. I think there are plenty of options in the green areas. So there are plenty of options out there that we've made available, but I would ask the council to really consider what was presented to us today as well with regards to the deadlines and there's lots of things to consider. So I think for the sake of consistency, just to make sure that the tallies are very clear, this will be the only one I support. The rest I will not. Thank you.
Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for Kit, please. Kit Jeffries.
Yes.
Hi, Kit. Just because you're kind of, the go-to guy on a lot of this information, can you guesstimate for us how much tax income each of these licenses would bring?
I can guess at about what the revenue would be. I'm not an economist, so it'd be pretty tough.
Yeah, I'm not asking for,
Yeah, so it's basically right now our understanding is that it's going to be a general sales tax, so it'll be the 6.5% statewide. And I believe that 2% of that comes back to the city, if I'm not mistaken. But realistically, the medical cannabis dispensaries that happen in Rapid City will see anywhere from 10% of the 8 to 10% of the population will have a medical marijuana card. It's just pretty consistent with other states. So we'd expect that there'd be 9,000, 10,000 people, probably on average, spending at about $1 million a year per store. And so whatever 2% of a gross million would be about how much tax revenue would be generated. We would hope that somebody at the legislature brings forward a medical tax bill that falls in line, and same with recreational tax as well.
Great, that's exactly what I needed to know. Thank you, Kit. Give me just another second here. Question for Director Fisher, please.
Okay.
Hello, Director Fisher. So on these planned overlays, or, if we have an area that falls in the green zone, but someday they might build a school nearby, or someday it might be a church nearby, can those be overturned? Do you understand that question? I mean, do we have to stay with what the overlay says?
No, so you're acting on these under the conditions that exist today. If in the future a church or a school or any of those other limitations were to choose to come within that distance, that would be their decision. This dispensary could continue on and could even enlarge as long as it's been in place first before the other use was initiated to the neighborhood.
Thank you, exactly. Okay. And then when you guys came before us and presented the green areas and where we could allow these things. And this just is, I guess, a question on your opinion. Since we saw them all, as we were talking about going through this process, do you think it's disingenuous of us to now back off on that green area? And you've gone through this whole thing with the zoning commission, and now we're pulling back and saying, oh, no, you can't be in that green area for such and such a reason. How do you feel about that as a person that kind of shepherded that through?
So if I might, Mayor,
Yes,
When we
please.
took this to the working session and we had the map that showed green and red, the reason that the yellow, which is the conditional use permit area, was introduced is that there was concern from several city council members that because of our large amount of greenway tracks and other park systems that meander through our city, there would be areas that would be zoned out from this use, and that wouldn't be fair to a lot of those commercial corridors. In addition, there was some pushback that there were no sites on West Rapid that would be allowed if we only went green. I think the only uses in Red Rapid are conditional. So knowing that we wanted to have that fair playing field and knowing that we have established criteria identifying what must be mitigated in order for this use to be allowed when it does encroach within 500 feet of those sensitive uses, it then is laid before the council. Obviously, each of you has your own personal position on that, but that was kind of the reason why we created the conditional use permit area.
Excellent, thank you. I just think it's kind of myopic of us to think of only these areas because of where they lie. Yeah, you did create some options for West Rapid, which seems only correct. And so we can avoid getting a marijuana lane, so to speak, where, oh, that's the only place that's not affecting any of our constituents, so we'll put them all there. I think that's a bad decision. I think it might be where we're headed, and I think we have to expand the acceptance of some of these dispensaries simply out of fairness to the dispersal through the city. And so that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Okay. Do not have a motion on item 4. We have a motion to affirm by Lance Lehman, second by Richie Nordstrom. Okay, seeing no further discussion, then we'll go to a roll call vote on this motion to affirm the Planning Commission's decision.
Lehman.
Aye.
Solomon. Evans. Drew. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Weifenbach. Sorry. Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. All right, item number 5. Appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by Emmett Reistroffer for Genesis Farms LLC to consider an application for a conditional use permit to allow medical cannabis dispensary for property generally described as being located at 1565 Haynes Avenue, Suite B as in boy. Motion to affirm the Planning Commission. Okay, we have a motion to affirm the Planning Commission's decision by Darla Drew. Do we have a second? Okay, the motion dies then for lack of a second. Okay, we have a motion to reverse the Planning Commission by Solomon and a second by Roberts then. We'll go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. To help out the rationale for voting no on this, I would suggest we use on our conditional use permit criteria items 2, 9, 11, and 12.
And I would agree with that as the motion maker. Thank you for that reminder to make sure that we're listing our reasoning. So looking at those, that works for me.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Motion on the table on number 5 is to reverse the Planning Commission's decision to approve, and we'll go to roll call then.
Roberts. Stroman.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Lehman. Solomon. Evans. Drew. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1 to reverse the Planning Commission decision.
All right, item 6, appeal the Planning Commission's decision on a request by Emmett Reistroffer for Genesis Farms LLC to consider an application for a conditional use permit to allow medical cannabis dispensary for a property generally located at 1624 East St. Patrick Street, Suite 106. Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I need to abstain from consideration of items 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay.
I yield.
All right, we can use a motion on item number 6.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Items 6, 7, 8, and 9 are for the same property. Planning Commission approved all of these with the stipulation that only one building permit be allowed for one dispensary at this location. I don't know if it would expedite it if City Council took those 4 together.
Well, I don't know, we're having trouble getting off the starting line just on one. Yeah, we can do it like this if you want. Well, let's hear from a couple people first. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to do these one at a time, but if everybody is okay with this, I'll start off with making a motion to deny this, reverse the decision of the Planning Commission because of the previous reasons stated is items 2, 9, 11, and 12.
Could you read their items?
Sure. Under the conditional use permit criteria is the location, and primarily that's the main reason that I'm voting no on it, is because it's too close to residential. 9 is the objectives of the adopted comprehensive plan and purpose of the ordinance codified herein. And then 11 is the effects of noise, odor, smoke, dust, air, and water pollution and degree of control through the use of clarifier screening, setbacks, and orientation. In this case, it would be the first few items on there, noise, odor, and perhaps even smoke. And then number 12 is the degree to which conditions imposed will mitigate any probable adverse impacts of the proposed use on existing adjacent uses.
Okay.
That one is self-explanatory.
All right, so to recap, you've made a motion to reverse the Planning Commission's decision on items 6 through 9 for the previous criteria listed.
That's correct.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Second by Roberts. Okay, we have a motion and a second then to reverse Planning Commission. Darla Drew.
I think it would be good to have one of these items pulled out and actually voted upon instead of just doing it as, I know they're all the same building, but I would like to give satisfaction to the people that are coming before us with some kind of a vote and more of an explanation. I know they're all the same property, I know they're going to be in the same building, but I think it'd be fair to the appellant to actually talk about one of these motions.
Okay, any of the, anyone can ask the, for an appellant or the,
So I will ask, I don't know exactly where this comes in since we're voting now, but I'd like to just say, let's pull item number 9 out of there and just do the 6, 7, and 8.
okay, is your goal to be able to get more in-depth discussion on
Yes.
this item? But it's the
Yes.
same property owner for each?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So could we not have that discussion without separating?
I guess we could. I guess we could if we'll allow people
Let's
to
do it
come
that
up.
way, yeah. You
Okay.
can call whoever you'd like.
Sir, yes. This is what I wanted to accomplish, so.
Gentleman from Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Yes, Emmett Reistroffer with Genesis Farms. If I can, I guess, try to preempt maybe some of your discussion with some insight to this location. It is a mini mall with 5 units. We've talked to the tenants. Most of the units are actually open. We're applying at the units where we think a dispensary is a suitable fit for the design. Keep in mind, we're talking about very different security situations from your typical restaurant or something. We have a security vestibule. There's no windows you can see inside. Everyone's identity is checked before they come in. Our trash enclosure is locked and screened. I have the Google map pulled up right now. I can't see anywhere where someone would be at their front step of their home and would see our dispensary. This is a very commercial area with a grocery store and a liquor store nearby. We think it's one of the only spots in that part of town. I can't speak to the green zone applicants who I'm not aware of, but by the look of the map, I believe this is the only area in that kind of southeast area where we could get a dispensary open. I know Habitat for Humanity sent an email that talked about a development a block to the north of us with an entrance on Creek, so there's no shared perimeter whatsoever. That's a theoretical development I believe they're still raising money for, and I wish them luck on their plan. They have very robust landscaping, so do we, with screening. So, I mean, we want to be a good neighbor there, and I don't see any way a dispensary at this mini mall would disrupt the neighborhood. There's not a lot of foot traffic on that sidewalk. There's no school bus stops that I know of. Nobody has contacted us and really said a site-specific concern with children or anything like that. So I'd ask for your open mind that, you know, we're trying to spread access around Rapid City in areas that make sense. None of our locations are immediately next to homes. You know, this is a very commercial mini mall. And I guess I'll wrap up by just saying, when you think about things like odor, how our activities impact neighbors, I mean, I have a 200-page business plan that is created to satisfy 125 pages of rules from the State Department of Health, several of which touch on those things. Our signage is discreet. Nothing in it would even indicate that we're a dispensary. You'd have to know who we are and build that relationship. There's no pot leaves, no artwork, nothing like that. We want to operate just like a dental clinic or a chiropractic clinic, and we'll take that responsibility seriously. Very, very intense odor control technologies installed with 3 layers of filters. The inventory's prepackaged.
Excuse me just a minute. On that odor control, you're talking about just the raw product, right?
Yeah, well, all of our products will come prepackaged in child-resistant, tamper-evident, air-sealed packaging. So you can't smell it through the package. It's 3 milliliter thick plastic. That meets FDA requirements for medications. Yep.
One more question. So people can drive right up to where you are?
Yep.
Okay, this is important to me, colleagues, because people with brain injury, epilepsy, PTSD need that direct access. They might not be able to walk there. This is something that I think direct access matters to me, because we're talking about accessibility here to a medicine. And I think we get off the track a little bit because it's, you know, so related to recreational. But this is a medicine, so I think that we have to respect the fact that these guys are providing a direct access. There aren't a lot of you know, easy residential access to this place. And for my sake, I mean, I didn't let my children roam all over where they wanted to go, so I think that when we're talking about children being in proximity, I don't know if that's really a great point for us in this discussion. So I'm going to vote yes to one of your things. I don't know how to do that.
Thank you for letting me speak, Counselor.
All right, thank you. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just initially referring to item number 6, but I'm okay with the rest of them, 6, 7, 8, and 9, to be reversing the decision of the Planning Commission, and based on those 3 criteria that I've stated before. And just a correction, to the gentleman from Sioux Falls, the grocery store is no longer there. It is vacant, and then of all the businesses that I'm familiar with, you go out the back door and it's right across the street is a residential. And that's the primary reason why I'm voting that. And then if you go within the next 500 feet of this, There's several houses within this area of location. That's the primary reason why I'm voting no on this. Thank you.
Bill Evans.
Thank you. I do have one question for the speaker that was just up there. I can't remember your name, I'm sorry. You know, as sites go, I'm pretty much opposed to all of these, but I got to be realistic. As sites go, I think yours is pretty good because it is so commercial and it's really hard to cross that street if you've ever tried to. However, what I want to hear out of your mouth, because we've had conjecture up here the last couple meetings, what is the purpose of 4? I want to hear you explain the purpose of 4 applications on the same site. What is the logic behind that?
Well, I think the logic has been shared, I share with another applicant who had a similar situation. You know, we first approached this, we read the ordinance. I'll admit I wasn't here when you debated the ordinance. I was busy doing that in Sioux Falls, but I looked at the end product of what you passed. I went to city staff, went through a number of scenarios, what's allowed and what's not allowed. We were actually cautioned that by turning in multiple applications at the same site, staff did recommend a denial. It came to Planning Commission, and the discussion that I witnessed was that we were following the rules, and that's what was allowed, and any good business person would fight for their best opportunity. I personally am opposed to a lottery, but that's not the debate today. But because there is a lottery, like any good business person, I'm going to try to increase my odds for success. Now, I would like to remind you there's a stipulation attached that says only one may eventually operate. So if we drew 2 at the mini mall, one of them we would either just withdraw, suspend, whatever is appropriate, or work with the city to transfer it to another location. Under no circumstance would 2 dispensaries be next door to each other in the same site.
Well, you weren't around when I mentioned that I either wanted the city to be the dispensary and then lease them out, or I wanted it wide open so everybody had a fair shot. And I do find this to be a bit of gamesmanship, again, that is offensive to people, the smaller players, who aren't able to use this tactic. So,
could I add one thing, Counselor?
Sure.
I just want, just to be known, because I do operate ethically, I have a good track record. I've even been quoted in the media multiple times protesting in Sioux Falls and other cities. I advocated for rules that would have actually prevented this type of scenario. But I've also been open that if that is the scenario, I got to compete against the gentleman in the corner back there who's also got several applications. I look forward to competing with everyone and having a great relationship industry-wide. But if we didn't use all the tools in our toolbox, I'd be doing a disservice to my business partners and everyone who's spent a lot of money and time just to get to this point. So we are trying to be fair and equitable as much as we can.
A question that has come up, if we did approve one of these, would you be willing to perhaps withdraw the others?
Well, my only concern would be that at the last meeting, I believe another applicant had been approved for, I think, 3 or 4 sites, and maybe staff can correct me on the record there, but I thought someone else already has been approved. We would just want to be held to the same standard. So if we only get one, but they got all 4 at their mini mall, I would feel kind of treated unfairly in that regard. So I know that doesn't answer your question, but that's what I think about.
That's fair enough, and that's logical, but I did vote against all of them last time. So.
I understand that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, everyone. The motion that we have on the table is pertaining to items 6, 7, 8, and 9, and the motion is to reverse the Planning Commission's decision on these items. So we'll go now to a roll call vote.
What is the motion?
The motion is to reverse the Planning Commission's decision to approve.
Okay.
Lehman. Drew.
No.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Evans. Roberts. Armstrong.
No.
Solomon. Motion passes to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission 4-3.
Okay, thank you, and we're doing that, just again for the record, with the abstention of Greg Stroman on these 4 items. Okay, then on to item 10. Appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by Emmett Reistroffer for Genesis Farms to consider an application for conditional use permit for medical cannabis dispensary at 709 Mountain View Road.
Move to uphold the Planning Commission's decision.
Okay. Motion to uphold the Planning Commission's decision. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Bill Evans. I'm going to go to community planning here for a minute first.
Mr. Mayor, what we did at our last meeting, and what I encourage, if it works for you folks, if you would give staff just a couple minutes to just give some brief dynamics of each application, I think then that you'll be clear as to why Planning Commission acted the way they did, and making sure that we're all understanding exactly where this property is.
Okay, why don't you go ahead with that?
Thank you.
This item.
So this property is over at Bacon Park, and they're proposing a 2,505 square foot suite. To the property to the west or behind it is known as City Parkland. It is primarily used for open space and drainage. The creek itself separates the bike path from this property. There is Sioux Park to the south and west of this site. Planning Commission determined that that was sufficient separation to allow this to be approved with stipulations. And that's the particular suite that they're proposing to put the dispensary, and it's a 2,500 square foot area of a 188 square foot building.
Okay, any other discussion on item 10? Darla Drew.
Thank you. I like this location. I think it meets a lot of our criteria. Once again, with finances in mind, I know that my colleagues understand that marijuana use is going on in our community without or with our permission. The fact that this would be for medical marijuana, that you'd have to have a card, that it is medicine, not party time. I think that that's something it's hard to get that out of your mind. I understand that. But I think this is a good place to have it. I think it makes some equity with the west side of town, like going, oh yeah, you put all the dispensaries in the east side of town or the south side of town, or, you know, the west side of town needs this too. And I'd like to see this go through. I think it's a great location for it, and I think it meets criteria. Thank you.
Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. May I direct a question to Director Fisher, please?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Vicki, is this proposed site, is it going to have entrances on both what I call the front side of Bacon Park and the back side also?
I believe that this is only going to have the parking lot site only. It won't have access on the rear of the building towards the parkland. If there is access, it would just be for employee use and or security purposes, but not to the public.
Okay. And then on these conditional use permits, how long are they in effect for? Or do they ever have to reapply, or as long as they're conforming to the initial use, are they just approved indefinitely?
Conditional use permits stand on that property until they either revoke it or they bring in a use that's otherwise permitted. They do not expire.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I have Kip bring up the map of that location?
Yes.
And what I'm interested in, Mr. Harrington, is the distance from not only the greenway in the back of the building, but the distance to the park just to the south.
Mr. Mayor?
Kip Harrington.
So as you can see on this future land use map, you can see what's located as parks and greenway, so that this area on the south of Canyon Lake Drive is considered city park. That is Sioux Park. And then behind it is the greenway tract with the creek and the bike path on the opposite side of the creek. So exact distance is kind of hard to judge, but the dispensary would be located kind of in the center of Bacon Park here.
Have you got an estimate how many feet it is from the park to the south?
I can try to get that on Rapid Map here. Give me one sec.
That's the one I used, so I'd like to get a confirmation one way or the other.
Do it this way.
Sorry to catch you off guard there,
Oh,
Kip.
that's okay. We are looking from about the dispensary site, which is about right about there. It's about 600 feet, between 500 and 600 feet to the park. However, the park is located within 500 feet of the parcel itself, so it's, and then the greenway to the back.
So going from lot line to lot line is well within the 500 feet?
Correct.
Thank you. I yield.
Okay, item 10, seeing no further discussion on this, the motion on the floor is to uphold the Planning Commission's decision to approve. We'll go to roll call, please.
Lehman.
We'll be back in a second.
Sorry. Solomon. Evans. Drew. Nordstrom.
No.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong.
Aye.
Vote is up to you, Mr. Lehman. The motion is to uphold the Planning Commission's decision.
Aye.
Aye.
It's tie vote.
Tie vote, so the chair then votes no. Now, based on that and the fact that there are some stipulations here, it's recommended to us by the City Attorney's Office then to entertain a new motion. In other words, the no vote doesn't cause the yes vote to win by default at this point. Is there another? Oh, Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on this, I'll make the motion to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission primarily based on the criteria of number 2. And I will stand to be corrected if there's other criteria that needs to be added.
Okay, motion to reverse the Planning Commission by Nordstrom. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Solomon. Okay, any further discussion? Bill Evans.
I just want to make one comment. You know, as I'm kind of opposed to everything, but I got to be rational and realistic. And I'm wondering if any of you people that are voting against these things have ever gone down and stood in these spots, because if there was ever a more rational place to do this, a logical place based upon these criteria, this is kind of it. I'm having a hard time understanding the votes, frankly, because they don't make any sense to me. So thank you.
This one is odd, and I apologize for that. Maybe we should have done this differently. This is number 10. Okay. So to the city attorney's office, I have a question. So the first motion was to approve the Planning Commission's appeal, and that motion failed. Therefore, we're now entertaining another motion, a separate motion, which is the opposite motion, to reverse. We can predict another tie vote. So what if that motion fails? Do we keep doing this until infinity, or until someone gets off the fence, or what? Well, I'm not denying this is odd how this, but go ahead.
The chair would break the tie. So it'll depend upon the chair's decision if it's tied. And so if it would be if the motion ends up being to reverse the Planning Commission's decision and everything is tied, and then the chair votes yes to reverse, then it would be the positive, it would get reversed.
Okay, sorry for all this, doing all this in public, but
We just want to make sure there's a positive motion to reverse.
instead of a failed motion to uphold.
Yes.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, if I could, the easy way to think about it would be is if there's a motion on the table and that motion fails, that item is still on the agenda and something needs to occur to it. So if there's a motion, a separate motion that then passes, that disposes of that, that would be how to dispose of the item on the agenda.
Gotcha.
To clarify, the previous motion failed. So we need a motion that passes before we can move on to the next agenda item.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, okay, I apologize in advance for what might happen in a minute, but we're going to go now to another roll call vote. The motion this time is to reverse the Planning Commission decision to approve on item 10.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong.
No.
Solomon. Lehman. Evans. Drew. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Tie vote.
Chair votes aye. So that motion passes. On to item number 11. Appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by Emmett Rostroff. Sorry, I knew I was going to do that. Reistroffer. I'm sorry. For Genesis Farms LLC to consider an application for the conditional use permit to allow medical cannabis dispensary property generally described being located at 1565 Haynes Avenue, Suite A. Now there are multiple, is there just two, three?
There's three.
There are 3 items at this same address. Is there a reason why these should not be taken together? Anyone?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor.
Vicki Fisher.
So item 37, your item number 5, was previously acted upon by the City Council. That item and the next 3 that's on your agenda are all for the same property.
Gotcha.
Similar situation as you previously heard.
Okay. All right. Based on that, I would entertain a motion to handle 11, 12, and 13 at the same time. Would there be a motion? Oh, yeah, motion for all 3. Okay, we have a motion from Solomon to reverse the Planning Commission decision to approve on 11, 12, and 13.
Second.
Second by Roberts. Greg Stroman.
I'm sorry for not bringing this up earlier, Mayor, but I need to abstain from 11, 12, and 13.
Okay, we'll note that. Any further discussion on 11, 12, or 13? Okay, seeing none, we will then go to a roll call vote.
Lehman.
Aye.
Solomon. Evans. Drew. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Roberts. Armstrong.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1 to reverse the Planning Commission's decision with Stroman abstaining.
Okay, thank you. Item 14. Appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by Michael Willard for Treehouse Cannabis LLC to consider an application for conditional use to allow a medical cannabis dispensary for property generally described as being located at 2525 West Main Street, Suite 104 and 105. Bill Evans.
I just wanted to comment on the last vote in that linking them together, it forced me to vote. I would have voted for one, but not all of them. I just want to bring that up, just to clarify that. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any motion on item 14? Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. My motion is to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission as stated in criteria number 2. And if anybody wants to add any other criteria, I'll stand corrected.
Okay, we have a motion by Nordstrom to reverse the Planning Commission's decision. Is there a second? Okay.
And second.
Roberts would like to second and also add criteria 5 and 12. Okay? That's okay with Richie. Now we have a motion and a second on the table to reverse the Planning Commission's decision on item 14. Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. Kip, would you go into a little bit more detail on the location of this property for us, please?
Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Vicki Fisher,
so
is that
this-
okay? Vicki,
Of course.
it's up to you. The floor is yours.
No, Vicki, of course.
Okay, Vicki Fisher.
This is the clock tower site. There's about 27,000 square foot building on it. They're proposing to use about 1,100 square feet as a dispensary. Kip, could you put the arrow right where that dispensary is? It does sit 310 feet from a residential district that's to the south. Even though the apartments that you see south of that site do have residential use, that is an office commercial zoned district. The ordinance says that it can be adjacent to any of the commercial zoning, so that's not a criteria for denial. However, in looking at that, the Planning Commission did determine that since the entrance and the signage for the dispensary would not be visible to the apartments, and since it is a small portion of this overall use of this site, that they were in support of the dispensary at this location.
Yeah, I'm going to support this. I think I'd rather have a dispensary there than, they used to have a pretty lively bar in that area, and I think that this would cause a lot less traffic, access for children to be influenced in any way. To me, it's about business, and I'm sorry that I feel that way. According to my colleagues, it's got to be all about zoning. But I'm kind of on taxation and business on this. And so I'm going to probably have to say, I want to say yes to something, you know, because we set these parameters up, and then it was like Charlie Brown football. You know, you guys go for it. Oh, no, you can't have it. So I just think that it's a little disingenuous of us to sit here saying no after no after no after no. It has good access for people that have some kind of disability, like a brain injury or even PTSD, to be able to drive up right to the front of this. I think we really are doing ourselves a disservice by saying no to everything. It just doesn't make sense to me, kind of like Bill brought up earlier. A lot of these locations make sense, and yet again, time and time again, we're hearing no from this council. And I know they are using that criteria, but I think they might want to use some business acumen too, and looking forward, because this is going to happen. This is not just a trial run. This is going to happen in our community. And so let's get ready. Maybe this isn't the best way. Maybe this is a bad trial run. But I'm very disappointed by the reaction on this council that we can't get some at least pilot programs. This is what these are to me. Going and approved, and we've got nothing on the west side of town. So thank you.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I direct a question to our Community Development Director, Vicki Fisher?
Yes, please.
Okay. Vicki, today we're talking about yellow zones, but green zones, which this council has already set the rules for, approximately how many businesses have applied for green zone area?
We've received about 40 applications for permitted sites that are somewhere in the process.
Yeah, so we have 15 licenses total. So far, 40. I would say that we're talking about the exceptions, not the rule. The green zones, we've already decided. There's already plenty of opportunity for those of us who are trying to be fair and consistent in this, which I appreciate. Everybody kind of has their own criteria, but it's not that we're shutting out all medical marijuana. That would be dishonest to say that. Because it's honest to say that we already have green zones with approximately 40 applicants already. This is in addition to those that who should get the exceptions or not. And so many of us are making our decisions on a variety of things. For me, it's been pretty simple about the 500-foot rule that we have. I think that way we're fair to everybody who's applying, and they know even if there's a bike path there at 400 feet away, I'm not going to vote for it. Just to be consistent, because there's plenty of other spaces for them to shine as a business if they want to. So I just wanted to put that out there and make sure that that was on the record as well. Thank you.
Evans.
Thank you. I just want to point out that this might be a flaw in the ordinance that was approved, because I think the priority should be that a place is a residence rather than zoned commercial. And I think if we had made that distinction in the first place when we approved the ordinance, we wouldn't even be having this particular discussion. So this is maybe a flaw that needs to be corrected. Thank you.
Seems like our list of regrets maybe is building at this point, but okay, so we have a motion on the floor for item 14 to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission. We'll go now to a roll call vote.
Roberts. Stroman. Aye. Armstrong.
No.
Lehman. Aye. Solomon. Aye. Evans. Aye. Drew. No. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Motion passes to reverse the Planning Commission's decision 6-2.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, item 15, appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by Cody Shad to consider an application for a conditional use permit to allow medical cannabis dispensary for property generally located at the east of Tower Road, north of Hanks Drive. Vicki or Kip, any comments on this one?
I'll defer to Kip since Nevada stood up and mentioned he was my nephew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Planning Commission recommended denial of this conditional use permit, so the appeal would be to allow the conditional use permit. Just so you're all clear on that.
Oh, did I say it wrong?
No, you didn't. You didn't mention what the Planning Commission's action was. So this one is exact opposite of everyone you have acted upon so far. This was the only one in this agenda that was denied by the Planning Commission.
Okay. Okay, Solomon makes a motion then to affirm the decision of the Planning Commission, and Lehman makes a second to that effect. So now there's a motion on the table to affirm the Planning Commission's decision to deny. We'll go to a roll call vote now, please.
Lehman. Drew. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Evans. Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong.
Aye.
Solomon. Motion passes 8-0 to affirm the decision of the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Item 16, appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by Emmett Reistroffer for Genesis Farms LLC to consider an application for conditional use permit for medical cannabis dispensary for property at 608 St. Joseph Street. Vicki Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item and the following item are side-by-side properties that, and it has the same applicant. When Planning Commission looked at these, they did note that the property is within 500 feet of Main Street Square and a church, but this is in a commercial corridor. They're not visible to the church or to Main Street Square. They did determine that it was appropriate to have a dispensary in the downtown area, but they approved them with the stipulation that only one building permit be allowed for either one of those two properties.
Okay. Any discussions or motion from City Council? We'll stay here all day till we get a motion. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take the chance here on this, is that we're combining both 16 and 17.
We have not introduced it that way, but you could make a substitute motion to that effect.
I would like to do that.
Okay, we have a substitute motion to combine 16 and 17. Second to that motion? Second by Solomon. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Let's just keep them separate. Okay. That'll be the easiest way to go forward.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission on this item because of it's just too close to Main Street Square. So items review criteria would be, the conditional use criteria would be items 2, 5, 9, 11, and 12.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Do you have a second, right? Okay, we have a motion and a second by John Roberts, then to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission on item 16. So if everyone understands that motion, we can go to a roll call vote, please.
Stroman. Roberts. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Drew. Evans. Solomon. Lehman. Armstrong.
Aye.
Motion passes to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission 6-2.
Okay, thank you. Item 17, appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by Emmett Reistroffer for Genesis Farms to consider an application for a conditional use permit to allow medical cannabis dispensary for property at 610 St. Joseph Street. We already heard from Vicki Fisher, Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Make the same motion as to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission on the criteria 2, 5, 9, 11, and 12.
Okay, we have a motion by Nordstrom and a second by Jason Solomon. Now we'll go to a roll call vote on item 17.
Evans. Lehman. Solomon. Armstrong.
Aye.
Stroman. Roberts. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Drew. Motion passes to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission 6-2.
Okay, thank you. Item 18, appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by Emmett Reistroffer for Genesis Farms to consider an application for conditional use permit to allow medical cannabis dispensary for property generally described being located at 230 East North Street. We'll go to Vicki Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This property is located in the northwest corner of East North Street and Milwaukee Street. Be about 1,500 square foot. There's a casino there currently. They'd be looking to change the use to a dispensary. The property to the north is residential. However, it is separated by an alley, and there's also a 6-foot-high chain link fence with slats. They do have separate access points. The entrance and signage is not visible from the residential district. Planning Commission believed that that was sufficient buffering, and they recommended to approve with stipulations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Lehman to reverse the Planning Commission's decision pursuant to criteria 2 and 5, and a second by John Roberts to that effect. So the motion on the table now is to reverse the Planning Commission's approval of this item. And seeing no discussion, we'll go to roll call vote, please.
Lehman. Solomon. Evans. Drew. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0 to reverse the Planning Commission decision.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We have a motion to adjourn by Roberts and a second by Lehman. All in favor?
You are the
adjournment,
last party
say
in the conference.
aye.
You will hear silence until the conference
Motion carried.
begins.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Appreciate that.